Preacher 357 here, coming to you here from the shop here at the cleaning table again. The other day I made a video on the Model 13 Smith & Wesson, and I made a joke, a pretty lame joke at that, during that video about how that I had not adjusted the sights before I started that video, and a friend of mine had a question about how you would adjust sights. Did that joke mean that there were guns you could adjust sights on? And so I thought I would make a quick video just talking about adjustable sights versus fixed sights and how you adjust sights on an adjustable sight gun. And we'll just talk about the basics of it. You know, sometimes those of us who have been around firearms a long time, we take for granted that everyone just understands how a lot of these things work. And there's a lot of new gun owners out there, people that haven't had a lot of experience with firearms, and they don't understand these things yet. So I thought it might be good to just make a quick video that sort of explains some of these different ideas and how this works. Obviously, I compared these two revolvers right here, a Model 66 Smith & Wesson and the Model 13. Now the 66 is stainless. The Model 13 is actually a nickeled gun. I chose this one rather than my 65, which is the stainless version, because both of these firearms are 4-inch firearms. And so I thought for the teaser video that I put up, what is different about these two revolvers, I wanted to have two guns that were as comparable as possible, both being K-frames, both being 357 Magnum, and both being 4-inch configurations. The main difference between these two guns, other than the finish and a few things like the lack of a lug on the front here, the lack of a shroud, I'm sorry, on the ejector, whereas this just has the lug in the front it locks into. You know, the main difference between them really is the fact that the 66 is an adjustable sight model, whereas the 65 has non-adjustable sights. They are just cut into the top of the top strap there, and then you have the ramp on the front. And so that's your main difference between the two. As we saw in our Model 13 video, I was having trouble hitting with the Model 13 because the sights were not lining up with my ammunition was hitting. And I had to sort of figure it out and use some Kentucky windage on it to try to figure out where to hold, though it did better with the 357 Magnums. And that's what you see a lot of times with these fixed sight guns, is the main type of ammunition that is expected to be used by the manufacturer is kind of how they set the gun up to shoot. On a adjustable sight model, such as the Model 66 here, you can use whatever kind of ammunition you want and then adjust the sights accordingly so that you can take whatever kind of hold that you want in order to hit the target. Whereas with the fixed sight revolver, you have to do a little bit of guesswork and just learn where to hold to hit where you want to hit, or you have to change your ammunition till you find one that hits exactly where you want it to. That's the only two options you have. And so I want to look a little bit at this Model 66 Smith & Wesson and talk a little bit about how these adjustable sights work and how you make the adjustments with them. So let's get to the cleaning table here. We'll take a look and start learning a little bit about these. All right, guys, let's take a look now at the two revolvers. Look specifically here at the fixed sight, and you can see how it's cut into the top strap there. Just a little trough that's cut out, has the little notches in the back that you look through, and then the ramp on the front there. And that's all there is to it. What you see is what you get. However, with the Model 66 here, you can see that it has this adjustable sight system that's screwed into the top. And this system here is what moves. The front sight is also a ramp, much like on the Model 13, although it is pinned in and can be replaced, can be changed out to something else besides just that one. If you wanted like some sort of fiber optic, they make different options that can be put in there. but it is a ramp, much like from the factory, much like the Model 13 was. But this rear sight is really where your adjustments come on a revolver. Now, different types of firearms will have different types of adjustment, and there are firearms that have adjustments on the front side as well that will let you make adjustments in the front or the back. And so it's a little different in those situations how you make those adjustments. But for a Smith & Wesson revolver, the adjustments are made by the screw on the top and the screw on the side, because it is adjustable both for windage and elevation. Windage means side to side. Elevation is obviously up and down. And so the elevation is on top and the windage is on the side here. And by screwing this screw, you can move this blade that is in this assembly here. There's a blade that moves side to side here, and the entire assembly moves up and down. And so by moving this blade side to side, you can adjust your windage. You can adjust to the right or to the left where you want your round to go, where the barrel is going to point. And I'll demonstrate that for you right now, showing you how that works when you adjust that screw in the side. When you turn it and move that blade, how that affects your aim. All right, I'm going to try to show you how adjustable sights on these revolvers work. You can pretty well see a sight picture there where I've kind of got it lined up with the target here. Now this target's awfully close, so you're not going to see a lot of difference even when I move the sight for a target this close, but you have to realize the further the target is away, the more exaggerated that difference becomes. So I'm going to start with it like this right here, and it's centered. And I'm going to move this sight all the way to the left-hand side. I'm moving the rear sight, and I'll put a screwdriver in this side screw that's on the side, and I will turn, to move it to the left, I'll turn it back to me from the side here. So if this screwdriver was on the back, you'd be turning it to the left to move it left, to the right to move it right, but since it's on the side, it's turning back towards you. So let me do that now. I will move this sight all the way over as far as it goes. And I think you're starting to see how the sight picture changes when I do that. If I can keep the screwdriver in the slot and hold all of this steady at the same time. It's not easy to do. And so it is all the way over now. Now, how would I go about lining that sight back up in the middle? Well, in order to line the sight up in the middle again, I have to push the front barrel over. And that is how the sights work. What I've done is I've adjusted how far over the barrel is pointed. So by adjusting the rear sight to the left, I move the point of impact to the left because I have to move the barrel to the left to line it back up with the sight. All right, and now if I were to take my screwdriver, and now if I were to take the screwdriver and move, turn it to the right, turn it away from me, as far as this goes, I should start seeing that sight picture disappear, and the front sight should start going to the left on the screen until it starts to disappear. And that's what we see has happened. So how would I line it back up? By moving the barrel back to the right. And so by moving the rear sight to the right, we adjust the point of impact to the right. So whichever direction you want to change your point of impact on a revolver that has adjustable sights, you move the rear sight that direction. Plain and simple. All right, guys, I brought a couple of other common types of guns out here as well, handguns particularly here, that have sights on them that are somewhat adjustable. Not in the same sense that the Smith & Wesson Model 66 is, but there are adjustments that can be made for these types of handguns as well. And you'll find semi-autos that actually have adjustable sights on them, especially some of your 1911s, some of your Target models of 1911s will have adjustable sights. And even some other of your polymer guns will have adjustable sights if they're like Target models, or even like some of the Taurus. I think the G2C actually had a sight that had adjustments on it. The rear sight on those actually had the ability to be adjusted somewhat. So you get a lot of different variations in the guns, depending on what the manufacturers are designing the gun for and what options they are offering that they think people want. But here I have two of the most popular, being the Glock Model 19 and the M&P Compact. Now this one is in 40 and this one is in 9, but it makes no difference really. The 9mm and the 40 guns of both are practically identical, so it really is an apples to apples kind of comparison here between the two different types of guns. But you'll see something very different between these two types of guns. First off, the Glock has a rear sight that is adjustable for windage, meaning that it can be moved side to side. And what you have here is a joint that the sight slides into. I guess you could call it a dovetail, though it's not very dovetailed, but it is a slide cut there that's in the frame. I'm sorry, it's in the slide that it sits in. And if you want to move this sight, you would have to either take a sight pusher, which is a tool that's made specifically to move these sights, or you could take a small punch and hit the sides of them until they move. Now you've got to be very careful doing that, or you will damage the sight. You'll mess up your finish on your slide. It's not the best way to do it, but if you don't have a sight pusher, sometimes you have to resort to those kinds of things if you can't figure out some other way to push that sight. But it's not a recommended way. I would recommend that rather than trying to do that yourself, you just take it to someone and let them install some sights or remove some sights for you that actually has the necessary tools, because it's better if you do it that way rather than marring your finish and possibly, especially with a Glock, breaking your sights, because the Glock sights are plastic. But the rear is drift adjustable, and I actually had to drift this one when I first bought it because it was a little bit off. It was shooting a little bit off, and so I had to move that rear sight over, and I used a punch, and there's a little dinging on that sight from where I used a punch. It still works, but I should have known better, but I did it anyway. But I moved that sight slightly to get it more hitting where I wanted it to hit. The front sight on a Glock is merely pinned in to the slide. It's not movable. And this is unloaded. Seeing that chamber, it is unloaded. There's no magazine in it. What I'll do is I'll remove this slide here and show you the underside of it. I said I would, if I can get a hold of it. There's our barrel and our recoil spring. And at the front, right here at the front, if you can see that, if you can get a good view of that, in the front there's where it's pinned in here. That holds it in place where it can't come out. But it can't move side to side because there's no way to push it side to side because it's just secured from the bottom. The M&P series of guns have dovetail cuts on the front and on the back of the gun. And so with this gun, you can adjust the windage, the side to side, from the back. But you also could adjust it from the front as well. I'll pull this one apart also. And there is no such little pin or anything in the bottom holding this in place. It is just dovetailed in. It's slid into the side there and held in place by the tension on the front. Now the rear actually has a set screw. The Glock does not. The Glock rear side is just held in place by the tension with the slide, because the sights and the cut are so close in size that the tension is what holds it in place. The M&P has a set screw in the middle that you have to remove first before you can take the sight off. But by removing the set screw here, you can drift this sight left and right to change your windage. Now this one is not adjustable for elevation, but as I said, they do make sights, and I'm sure there are even aftermarket sights that you can put in for either one of these guns that would give you elevation change as well, to make those kinds of adjustments. But that's what you would find on most of your semi-autos, your polymer frame semi-auto guns that are so popular today, the modern firearms. You'll see this type of sight system generally on them. By brand, it'll change a little bit, but you know, it's usually going to be something or a combination of what you see here with these two models. Now guys, we've talked about the revolvers and some of the semi-auto handguns that have the adjustable sights. And we talked about how some guns have adjustments on the front as well. So I thought I'd just take a moment to show you one gun that does have an adjustment on the front. All right, we can see here we've got the front of the AR-15 here, and on this post at the front, there is adjustment on the top. If you can actually read that on there, but it says up and then gives you a direction. If you turn that sight post, it will actually raise or lower the front sight. Now if you raise the front of the front sight up, you're going to lower your impact of your bullet. If you put the front sight down, you raise your impact, because the front sight, you move it the opposite direction of where you want the bullet to go, where your point of impact, where you want the point of impact to be. And for the rear sight, you move it the same direction. And so with an AR-15, you can see here that you have that option to adjust the front sight. So why don't we take our Model 66 out now, and we'll do a little bit of practical testing with it, and see if we can make some adjustments on these sights and bring the point of impact to exactly where we want it. All right guys, we're gonna try to put the adjustable sights to practical test here and see if we can't show how they work. What I've done is I've taken the Model 66 here and I have adjusted the sights so that they ought to be way off, even from this distance here, which is only about 10 yards here. I think I've put them far enough off that you should be able to tell, even at this distance, that they're way off. And what we'll do is we'll fire a few test rounds, see where these are hitting, and then start making some adjustments from what we see, and see if we can't get the sights to be right on, so that we're hitting exactly where we're aiming. So let's put a few rounds in the gun here, and we'll shoot a few at the target, see where they're hitting, and then see if we can't make our adjustments from there and get this gun to shoot where we want it to. And I'm going to shoot in single action to try to be as accurate as I can. A lot of times when you're really testing accuracy on a gun, you want to use a bench rest in order to get the most accuracy that you can. But I'm not going to do that. Hopefully I'm a good enough shot we can make the demonstration without having to do that. So let's try it and see what happens here. About 10 yards away, there's a shoot and see target, so hopefully you can see where the rounds hit fairly easily. But let's put a few rounds on here and see. I'm going to aim right dead center at the middle of the target, and we'll see where the rounds go. Shooting 158 grain 38 special. I don't even see where that's hitting. Looks like way high. Not even on the target really, are we? Way off. Yeah, you can see way high there. Way high up there. So I think it's pretty obvious there that those rounds are way off target. So we need to make some adjustments. We're obviously high and to the right. So to make adjustments on this revolver, we need to bring the sight down, because remember, the direction you want the bullet to hit is the same direction you move the rear sight, which is where the adjustment comes on this. Some revolvers are not necessarily revolvers, some guns have adjustment on the front, but this one does not. This one's only on the rear. If you were adjusting the front, you move it the opposite direction of where you want the round to go. So since it's hitting to the high and to the left, we want to move it down and to the right. So we'll move our sight over a little bit to the right. I'll move it 3 turns that way, and I'll move it 3 turns on the top, and we'll see how much better that does in our point of impact. See if it makes any difference at all. Cheat this a few more. We'll put one more cylinder through it and see if that made any difference at all. See if we see any change in our point of impact. All right. All right, we're still hitting way high, so I'm gonna make a lot more adjustment there. I see that it did bring it over some, but I'm still maybe just a hair to the left, so I want to bring it a little bit more over to the right, and I want to bring it a lot more down. So I'm going to adjust this sight clockwise on the top quite a bit. That was about 5 turns. Now I'm going to go about 2 turns. 2 full turns on the windage. And let's try this again, and we'll see where it's hitting now. See if we've made any difference in it whatsoever. Actually, put my spent brass in the case with my in the jug with my good rounds, so I had to fish out the ones on it. But let's try it again now. Aim dead center again and see where these are going. And you can see we're still way high, so I've got to do a lot more adjustment on the elevation because I really cranked that thing up earlier. So let's really crank this thing down quite a bit. May have went a little overboard on cranking it up in the first place, but that's got her down some. And I think my windage is just about right. I'm actually going to crank it back just a little bit toward the left. And then we'll try this again. All right, let's try it one more time. Let's see if that made any difference. I brought it quite a bit down and centered it right up, I think. So let's see where it's hitting now. I'm shooting kind of fast there, but I think we can see I'm still not far enough down. I'm gonna crank it down a little bit more. But where I'm hitting on the target, it looks like it's fairly well centered. I'm just not holding my aim very well. Getting in a rush, I believe. I was shooting that rather fast there. I'm gonna take my time a little bit more this time and see if that got it. Because I'm thinking it ought to be pretty close now to where I need to be. I've made the adjustments. I've brought it down quite a bit, a whole lot. And I think I've got it fairly well centered. So let's see if I really take my time with some slow fire here, if I can maybe at least put one in the bullseye. Let's give her a shot here. That is pretty close. I might actually need to come up just a hair, but that's about where I need to be. You know, I'm getting pretty close to the center there. So I've got them fairly well adjusted. And generally speaking, that would be good enough for me for just, you know, shooting offhand. So, you know, that's a decent group out of this revolver. You know, I'm not saying I'm the greatest shot in the world. I'm sure there's some guys that would have put every single one of them right in the same hole from this distance, but I think you can see there that I've walked the sights down from the top all the way down to where they're fairly well centered, and I'm shooting a halfway decent group. So that's how you adjust your sights. That's how you get your revolver shooting on before you do a video, which I, you know, obviously couldn't do with the fixed sight revolver, but you know, hopefully, you know, before I start doing videos with adjustable sight guns, I'll do this ahead of time, so maybe I can hit something in the video and you don't have to watch me struggle. But I think you can see how that works. So let's go on back into the shop. All right, guys, I appreciate all of you coming out. Obviously, the information that I presented today was very rudimentary. It was very basic. And if you have any experience with guns at all, especially handguns, which was the main focus that we had today, especially with regard to the adjustable sight revolvers, if you've ever dealt with them before, this was probably all information you knew already. Maybe not all that interesting, but there have been so many new firearms buyers over the last year or two, so many people just getting into it. And there's always people that have questions. They're always looking for answers. And so hopefully I was able to present this in a manner that was very simple and straightforward. And if anybody had any questions about it, this will answer it for them. I know when I first started out with these guns a long time ago, I had lots of questions. And I was insatiable in my quest for knowledge, and still am. And that's really what this channel is about, is just me taking you along on a journey from me to learn more and more about, you know, what I love so much, which is firearms. I don't claim to know everything. I don't claim to even know most things. I'm still in the process of learning. I'm not a gunsmith by any means. There are so many guys out there that know more than I do. I'm especially not that well versed in things like rifles and scopes and optics and all of those kinds of things, which are, you know, much newer devices that have been introduced. I'm very old fashioned and like my iron sights, and like to shoot the old kind of guns like the revolvers and the lever guns and what have you. But the new stuff is great too. And I'm still learning about a lot of that new stuff. And I'm still getting well versed in that myself. So I'm not where I need to be. And I'm going to go on a journey to find that information. And hopefully I'll be able to take you guys along with me as well, as I learn some different things that I haven't been exposed to yet. But you know, a lot of the things that I do love, that I have really immersed myself in, these revolvers and what have you, you know, I want to make sure that people know this information if they're interested in it. And I want to present this information and have it available, because I know it was frustrating at times for me over the years trying to find out some of this stuff, because you have a lot of different people on the internet giving a lot of different opinions, and it was very hard to know what was right and what was wrong. So hopefully, I can demonstrate what I'm saying and prove what I'm saying to be right. And if I'm not right, then I expect people to correct me on it, because I want to know what the truth is. I want to understand. I don't want to just say I know it all, because I don't. So if anyone ever knows more than I do and you want to chime in the comments or tell me I'm stupid or whatever, I'm willing to listen, because I'm always wanting to know, not just to, have the praise and the glory. I really want the knowledge and the understanding. So, guys, I appreciate you coming out. This is Preacher 357. Y'all take care. God bless you. And we'll see you next time.